After 2 days off, the Hurricanes are making their way to the Music City, and the only songs they're going to be playing in Nashville is Rock You Like a Hurricane.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hawkers, also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. On today's Wednesday episode of the show, we're going to be previewing the Canes' final matchup of the regular season against the Nashville Predators in the Music City. Also going to be hearing from what Rod Brind'Amour talked to the media with on Tuesday and react to that. And finally, what could be the possible lines and goalie matchups between the Hurricanes and the Predators? But before we jump into all that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. So, the Hurricanes are playing Nashville for the last time in the regular season. The last time they met up was back on December 6th, so not that long ago. You're talking about 11 days in between. Hurricanes won it 6-3, and that was a game where the Hurricanes kind of let up in the third period and let Nashville somewhat back in it. That was a game that could have ended 5-1, really, but either way, they won 6-3. This matchup, Hurricanes 21-9-2, Nashville 13-15-4. The Hurricanes are 7-3-0 in their last 10 on a 4-game winning streak after being Columbus, Washington in a shootout, and their back-to-back weekend home and home against Philadelphia, which both ended in a shootout win. Nashville, surprisingly enough, 7-3-0 in their last 10. They just beat the St. Louis Blues before that, lost to Colorado, then somehow beat St. Louis the second time, did beat Colorado in a shootout to snap, a point streak at that time. And then, of course, Carolina not that long ago. So 2 wins here, a loss. 2 wins here, a loss. So Nashville's in that tweener of they win 2, lose 1, win 2, lose 1 type of deal. Now, looking at the last 5 games, points, goals, assists, all that stuff. Seth Jarvis, 2 goals. Andrei Svechnikov, 4 assists and 4 points in the last 5. Andrei has been on fire for the Hurricanes as of late. For the Predators, Luke Evangelista, 5 assists. Philip Forsberg, 5 goals, 8 points. So once again, Philip Forsberg doing Philip Forsberg things, surprisingly enough. Now, all that to be said, what does the tale of the tape say between these two teams? Who kind of has the edge? And right now, if you look at 5-on-5 play, Hurricanes by a margin have the edge. 3.25 goals for per game, which is 7th in the league, and they're 10th in the league in goals allowed at 2.78. So 5v5 wise, the Hurricanes are the better team because they're top 10 in both categories. They're getting saves and they're getting the goals. Nashville, on the other hand, 2.81 goals per game, which is 25th in the league, and then they let up on average 3.47, which is 28th. So while they are 7-3 in their last 10, if the Hurricanes do what they did last time they faced each other 11 days ago and don't have a third period where you let Nashville score 3 goals in the final 20 minutes of the game, this is another opportunity for the Hurricanes to, if they can match what they did in that first meetup, they could really put this game out of in their favor and just don't let Nashville back into it. Basically, put them away early, keep scoring goals like they did the last time. I think they're going to be in a good spot. It's just you've battled adversity over the last 3 games, 3 straight shootout wins. First team to ever do that in Hurricanes history to pull that off. But you've beaten them before at home. Now it's going to go to Nashville and take care of business, complete the regular season sweep, dominate from start to finish. Don't let them back in, and I think you'll be fine. Now, special teams is where this could be interesting. Nashville is 13th on the penalty kill at 81.7, with the Hurricanes being 18th in the NHL at 79.8. Power play-wise, you're still talking about 2 teams that are around 17.6% or fewer. Nashville, 17.6, like I said, at 22nd. Carolina 15.2, which is 29th. Hurricanes end up scoring a lot of power play goals recently, but when they go 1 for 6, 0 for 5, stuff like that, kind of messes with your numbers a little bit. So they aren't scoring power play goals. It's just when you start hitting that range of 1 for 5, 1 for 6, that starts getting a little sideways. But overall, I think the Hurricanes are in a good spot. Like I said, they're on a 4-game winning streak. They've beaten Nashville before. They just got to keep doing what they did. So real quick, the game is at 8 p.m. Eastern, since the fact that it's in the Central Time Zone. So it's an 8 p.m. start on FanDuel Sports Network South. So likely no national TV and stuff like that. So Mike can trip on the TV call along with the radio as well. So looking at players real quick on both sides of the ice. I mean, Sebastian Aho, 26 points, 9 goals, 17 assists. Seth Jarvis, 18 goals, 8 points, or 8 assists for 26 points. So right now, both of these guys are relatively within range too. They're only 6 points back of a point per game pace, but they're both playing very, very well for the Hurricanes, and the fact that they're tied with their Seth Jarvis's 18 goals and Sebastian Aho's 17 assists. It's funny how you look at the flip side of those things, of how that works out. But Jarvis, 18 goals, Jordan Stahl 9, Sebastian Aho 9, then Ehlers and Blake both have 8. It's crazy to think that the captain has 9 goals already this year, and he's played 29 games. Like, he's played 3 fewer games than a lot of these guys, and he's tied for second on the team in goals. And I still think it's very possible that we could see a 20-goal season out of the captain. That'd be very huge. Assist-wise, Aho 17, Ehlers 14, Svechnikov and Blake both tied with 11, Hall with 10 points, Aho, Jarvis, like I said, at 26, Ehlers 22, Blake 19, and Andrei Svechnikov at 18. So pretty well, all things considered, for the forward core. Then if you look at the, in terms of the defense, Shane Gostisbehere, 24 points, third on the team. Really good for what he's done. You guys heard me say it in the other segment, on Tuesday's show, where I think Shane Gostisbehere really should be putting himself into consideration for, USA Hockey for the Olympics, because 21 assists, which leads the entire Carolina Hurricanes team. You're third in points with 24, plus 11 on the board. Over 20 minutes of ice time, 39 shots, 24 blocks. He doesn't throw. He's got 9 total hits, which by all intents and purposes is tied with Charles Alexis Legault, one ahead of Mike Riley, but he's behind Chatfield, Walker, Nikishin, and Miller. That's where he's at. But if you look at where he is on ice, total ice time, he's third on the team. Sean Walker, 23 minutes. Kendra Miller, 22:49. Shane Gostisbehere has been playing really well for the Hurricanes. I think that really needs to be respected of what he's done. So I think when you look at how big of a matchup this is going to be, especially when you got former, Hurricanes and, Michael Bunting and, Eric Halla and, Brady Shea, that's a good thing for Gostisbehere to find a way to just do what he does, eliminate some of those guys and keep the pace he's been on, because like I said, right now where he is at on the season, I think he is someone who should definitely be a consideration, because you're talking about someone who's over a point per game. And we talk about on Tuesday's show, leads All-American defenseman at 1.04 goals for per game, and that's playing 23 games. I think there should definitely be something to happen there. But for the Hurricanes overall, I think they're in a pretty good spot. Now, when it comes to the lines and possible goalie matchups, we'll be talking about that in segment 3, because Rod Brind'Amour did meet with the media on Tuesday, and a lot of good insights. We get to see what's going on with Jaccob Slavin and his deployment for the Hurricanes since he's officially back, and a whole bunch of other things. So stick around. We'll listen and react to what Rod Brind'Amour said with the media on Tuesday here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. The holidays are amazing, but they can also get overwhelming fast. Travel, gifts, parties, year-end expenses. It's really easy to lose track of your money this time of year, and that's exactly why Monarch has become such a game changer. If you want to keep up with your finances under control this holiday season, you need to be using Monarch. Rated Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025, Monarch is an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, simple dashboard. In minutes, you can click your net worth, link all your accounts, and keep track of your contributions before deadlines. Monarch makes money check-ins simple. Just a minute or two each week, and you're completely up to speed. So don't let the financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. Thank you for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Hurricanes with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go check the link in the show notes or in the notes below if you're on YouTube to learn more. Now, welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we talked about the preview between the Hurricanes and the Nashville Predators, but before the team left to travel to Nashville for their Wednesday night game, Rod Brind'Amour did meet with the media. What did he say? Well, let's listen to it and react to it right now.
It's about Nikolai Ehlers quite a bit lately. Outside of speed, out of these past few games, what's really stood out to you about his game?
Well, it's hard not to notice the speed. So you take that out of it. He's still a pretty dynamic player, making, I would say making something out of nothing. It looks like there's nothing going on, and the next thing you know, he makes that extra little hang on to it and opens up space for his teammates. So just a dynamic player, but I think the speed is the thing that stands out.
Do you anticipate all three of the goalies getting a chance in these next three? Or are you trying to get to
yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We don't plan too far ahead here. We'll figure out tomorrow and then go from there.
Is it realistic to carry three goalies
Yeah.
into the season?
Oh, yeah.
And by doing that, what does it detract from? What does it take away possibly?
Well, listen, we got three good ones right now, and that's a real positive. We know the history with two of them is. It's just, that's the reason we have three, and Bus is, taking advantage of the opportunity. So it's a real, luxury to have that kind of security. It's probably not the best for the three guys to get the maximum work, but like I said, it just takes one bad thing to happen. Next thing you know, you're down to the two, and we'd be still pretty fortunate. So. It's good insurance. We just got to figure out how to manage it.
You and Jacob both talked about how it was hard to keep his minutes limited when he came back. Do you anticipate maybe having a couple more of those games of limited minutes, or when do you want to get him fully?
Yeah, we're kind of getting directed on how to do that, so that's really out of my hands, to be honest with you.
I was talking to Will Carrier. Kind of a unique situation to sign a guy for as long as you did, but obviously a guy you targeted. What was it that you saw when you signed him two summers ago?
It's kind of what you see every night when he's in there. He's just very consistent, and his game does not waver, and that's something they really value in our team, and it's also hard to play against. That guy is hard to play against, and very effective. So that's a pretty easy signing on our part.
And then I know he didn't start playing with the two Jordans, but that's where he's kind of ended up, and I'm assuming that you saw he's like that, they're like that, and you have an opportunity.
Well, again, it's just you love that consistent effort, shift in, shift out, night in, night out. He's been banged up a little. That's part of the I think that's plagued him a little bit over his career, but it's the way he plays. I mean, he knows one way to play, and that's what we love about him. So he's been very, very a good addition to our group.
I was telling him it's kind of interesting. There haven't been a ton of French-Canadian players who have come through here. Martin Johanna is the one that jumps out, but he's right at the top of the list among French-Canadians already, and he's only been here for a season and a half.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. It's not how we look at things.
Sure.
He's a good player, then I don't care where he's from, to be honest with you.
Well, you guys are winning, but it still seems like this team can take it up another notch.
I agree. I mean, it's a process. I think sometimes you win games and you can be better. Sometimes you lose games and you're like, that's exactly how you need it to be. It's just hockey's strange that way. But I think we've done fairly well, and I think I love the fact that we know there's room to improve.
Your thoughts on the shorter trip, 3 games?
Well, it's 3 and 4 nights. The schedule is what it is. I think you just take one game at a time and keep trying to take that next step. And it's you got Nashville, you got Florida team. Everybody's out to take you down, and we just have to be at our best.
You've talked about Taylor Hall some too, and I've just noticed every time we speak with him, he's an incredibly deep thinker in how he thinks the game. What have you noticed about his hockey IQ?
Oh yeah, I mean you don't play in as long as he has and at the high level, and then obviously one of the best players in the game for a good stretch there. So without having good hockey IQ or whatever hockey sense, I mean he's a great gifted offensive-minded player, and you see that in the way he goes about his business. I think I appreciate the fact that he's come in here and, you know, there's none of that about it. He's like, what can I do to help you win? And then he's actually trying to get better on the other side of the puck. I'm not teaching him how to skate and score goals, and we know what he can do there. It's, you know, he knows there's still room to get better away from the puck, and he's trying to do that.
Missing Jacob is obviously tough. It seems like it's been tough on the penalty kill, but at the same time, getting those other guys reps, getting Nikishin reps, things like that. Does that help you? Just kind of give you a little bit of a embarrassment of riches?
You certainly would hope. I mean, that's, you know, when you have injuries to key guys, you're putting guys in spots that, okay, maybe you wouldn't have if you had Jacob, obviously. Yeah, so the learning curve should be, you know, accelerated. I think we'll tell that maybe more in the future, you know, how quickly he becomes a player we think he can become. We're talking about Nikishin. I think we might look back and go, you know, these 25, 30 games were blessing for him that we had to throw him in and play him a little more than maybe we would have.
And Jacob, obviously, we're probably going to see that penalty kill rise. It'll be a pretty easy correlation.
Well, I hope so. I mean, listen, I don't know who would be a better penalty killer in the league than him. So you put that to your group, that should help us.
I joked with him that he might lose his Olympic partner now that Faber and Hughes are playing together in Minnesota. I imagine anybody would be happy to play alongside him.
Wow, that's a ways off still. But yeah, I mean, those are all pretty good players.
Big thank you to Rod Brind'Amour of the Carolina Hurricanes. And you heard it from Rod. A lot of stuff to talk. We're talking about Willem Carey and what he's done, you know, coming for a couple summers now, had missed a lot of time last year. It's been a lot, you know, thankfully healthier this year and has been very good on that third line with the Jordans. You look at Nikolai Ehlers and the fact that he's just dynamic outside of just the speed, but just his IQ, how he reads plays. He can stick handle in the phone booth. That's how good he's been. You know, it's great to see that Jaccob Slavin's back, and they did make that, you know, kind of announcement where it is going to be a situation that they are going to still limit his ice time. And Rod did say that's kind of out of his hands. And you know, you're probably talking to doctors. You're probably talking probably talking to Jacob, trying to ease him back in because he's missed the last 30 games outside of coming back on Sunday. So it's kind of tough to have a guy who's missed 30 games immediately jump back in and start playing 20 minutes. It's going to be a slow building process. So at least we kind of know where Slavin's going to be looking at in terms of his ice time. Probably third D pairing, Nikishin, whoever he's going to be with, and kind of just slowly build his way back in. You know, he's going to be on the penalty kill, which is great to have him back. That's amazing to have, too. But the fact that even with Jaccob Slavin back and the fact they're on a 4-game winning streak, Rod said, like, yeah, we still got room to grow. We still have a lot of season left. And, you know, if the team's playing good now where you're 21-9-2 and you can still get better, that should be pretty scary for a lot of teams thinking, oh, okay, so the Hurricanes have been playing good without a lot of their key guys, and everyone's back healthy. And once they're rolling, they can only get better from here. That should be a very scary thing to think about, is the fact that, okay, the Hurricanes are playing good. What are they going to be like now with everyone back and everyone fully running? So it should definitely be exciting. It's good to hear from Rod where it's, you know, not just 1 or 2 minutes talk about, you know, quick recaps or stuff like that. It was a good chunk of time listened to from the coach himself and getting to understand where you're at with the Carolina Hurricanes in terms of, you know, Carrier, Ehlers, you know, you're looking at Slavin being back. You know, are they going to go with 3 goalies? They're not sure how they're going to work it out over the next, you know, with the 3 games in 4 days, because you play Wednesday, then you get the back-to-back Friday and Saturday against Florida and Tampa. So the weekend should be very interesting in terms of how they figure all that out. But a lot of stuff going on with the Carolina Hurricanes right now. It's good to hear from the man himself of Rod Brind'Amour to know kind of what we're looking at right now in terms of the Canes. All that to be said, what could the possible lines in the goalie matchups be for the Hurricanes against the Predators? Well, stick around and we'll talk about it here in a second on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on actions as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is bets when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So, if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. At FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. All right, so jumping into the possible goalie matchups, I mean, you're looking at with the Carolina Hurricanes, you got Frederik Andersen, 5.7-2, 3.15 goals against, 875 save. You look at Brandon Bussi, 11-1-0 on a 9-game winning streak, a 2.05 goals against average, a 911 save, and 1 shutout. Now, we've seen very recently that Frederik Andersen hasn't been getting some starts. It's been mainly Brandon Bussi for the most part, and you see Pierre Kochetkov. And with Kochetkov, 5-1 in 6 starts, has played 7 games, a 210 goals against, a 904 save, and also has a shutout. But you're looking at the minutes between Bussi and Piotr, it's 732-37 compared to 371-06. Of course, like I said, you're talking about a 6-game start difference, even though they play 5 games apart. That Kochetkov came in for a quick relief for Frederik Andersen. Rod did say that they're not sure if they're going to go with all 3 goalies over the next 3 games in 4 days, which includes a back-to-back. So I think with the fact that you saw, Piotr Bussi back-to-back games and the fact that you got multiple days off, and with how Brandon's playing right now, I think Brandon Bussi is going to be the starter for the Wednesday game against Nashville. Then if this trend continues of playing Bussi and Kochetkov, I can see Kochetkov starting Friday against Florida and then Saturday against Tampa. I think that's a possible option that we're probably looking at. And the fact that it's probably right now Bussi Kochetkov playing that 1-2 role and maybe giving Freddie some extra time to kind of just adjust or have him as an extra whenever, a guy needs a night off, if he's the backup or however it goes. But I think in terms of the starter, I think it's going to be Brandon Bussi with the 2 days off and how great he's playing. I said a 9-game winning streak. You want to go with the hot hand, and right now Bussi is the hot hand. In terms of Nashville, UC Saros, 12-10-3, a 294 goals against, an 897 save. Justus Annunen, oh man, I feel bad for this guy for the fact of just not having a great team in front of him. It's just the struggles that have been really hitting this guy hard. 1-5-1, a 373 goals against, and an 865 save percentage. Justus Annunen has gotten 0 help from the Preds for the fact of just where his goals against is a 3.7 and his save is under 8.7. That's not beneficial for him at all. But in terms of Nashville goaltending, I think it's going to be UC Saros. I think he's going to be the guy that's going to be in that once again for them because that's just, in my feeling, is how it's going to go. They're going to ride with the guy who they're paying the money for, and I think that's just how. I think that's just how things are going to go. They're going to keep riding with him and going from there and see what happens. It's going to make things very interesting for Nashville, that's for sure, where you're kind of like, all right, we'll see how this goes. But in terms of the Hurricanes, I think the Hurricanes are in a really great spot of where they're at, where it's just, you move along, keep doing the next thing, and you kind of just go on from there. And in terms of just how these games are going to play, it's just keep an eye on how things are going to work out for the Hurricanes. But I think they're going to be in a good spot to where it's like, okay, it's going to make sense. Now, in terms of the lines, unless things get really crazy in how it's going to play out, I think you're still going to see the same groups. You're still going to see, Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis. It's going to be Ehlers, Stakov, and Blake carry with the Jordans. Depending on if Jesperi Kotkaniemi is ready to go, he might drop back in, or they might still roll with Jankowski, but it's going to be Hall and Robinson on the fourth line wings. Like I said, that might be the only switch up is KK for, Jankowski. So I'm curious to see how that plays out there. Looking in terms of the defense, we've seen, Ghost and Walker together. We've seen, Miller with Chatfield, or it's been Ghost and Chatfield, or, that's, I'm wondering how they're going to play out those defensive pairings, at least for the top four. I think the Hurricanes are probably going to roll back to what they did on Sunday. It's going to be Slavin and Nikishin as probably your third defensive pairing, because nothing wrong with Nikishin learning on his offhand, because he's done it before, playing on his offhand before, but the fact that you get to learn it from a guy like Jaccob Slavin, who is your defense partner, that's pretty dang good, all things considered. We were talking about the best defensive defenseman in the NHL, and that's your partner to learn from. No better person to learn from than Jacob. Like I said, in terms of defense, it could be Ghost Walker, it could be Ghost Chatfield. It just really depends on how they want to go with that. And then it's probably Miller Walker. That top four pairing is going to be very interchangeable. I think even probably during the game you might see a little tweaks here and there. So it just depends on how Rod and Tim Gleason will kind of want to work that out. But that's kind of what your top four is going to look like. It's just whatever combination of Ghost and whoever's going to be on that right-hand side of either Walker or Chatfield. That's kind of what you're going to go with. And then Miller's going to be whoever's with the other guy, and then it's going to be Slavin. With Nikishin, like I said, goaltending, my guess is going to be Bussy unless they feel like they want to go with Piotr. And then whoever starts Wednesday's game is probably the backup is going to be the starter on Saturday's second half of a back-to-back. Who knows? Either way, it's going to be very interesting next three games. Like I said, you got Nashville on Wednesday. You've already beaten them 6-3. Games should have been a lot farther apart if it wasn't for those 3 goals in the third period to Nashville. But then you got the 2-time defending Cup champs you got to go face on the road in Florida. You're in Sunrise on Friday, then you're in Tampa Sunday. So you're going against the 2-time defending Cup champs, and you're talking about another team who also went back-to-back within the last decade. So it's going to be a very important Florida trip for these guys to go and take some more points out of the Atlantic, especially with just how those two teams are playing right now. I think Tampa's been playing really well. Florida is still dealing with all their injuries, but these are some – I say the next 3 games, you're talking about a very big 6 points on the board. Will the Hurricanes get all 6? That'd be fantastic. If you get at least 4 out of the 6, I think you're feeling pretty good about yourself. 5 out of 6 would be ideal. Obviously, you want to go 6 for 6, but let's just say on some off chance, 5 out of 6 points is not a bad way to kind of roll into this 3-game road trip before we go into next week for Christmas and all of that stuff as we kind of start slowly wrapping up 2025 as we get closer to 2026. But, at these 2 days off, the Hurricanes definitely need it. Now I'm really excited to see where this team goes as they kind of keep their 4-game winning streak alive and start getting some more points out of Nashville than Florida later this week, which we'll preview the Friday show. We'll talk about all of that. But until then, guys, this is the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Hurricanes to get all the latest episodes. If you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of the show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through, our link in the show notes if you want to go check that out. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen to the NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneTrueZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin, where if you click the link tree in my bio, you can find all of my written content at thehockeywriters.com. If you want to check out my other podcasts, the Searchcast is on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For Locked On Hurricanes, we're on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review because I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, it's Locked On Hurricanes. Subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share with all their Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But hope everyone enjoyed the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Wednesday and have fun watching your Canes play the Nashville Predators at 8 p.m. Eastern. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.